to sort of ask a question, which we will do. So, without further ado, let's find out if wonderful Drina's got something to say. Drina looks serious for once. Mind you, she always looks serious. Oh my God, I'd hate to have an argument with her. Could you imagine?
Looks nice,
oh my
Drina.
God.
Thank you.
Your hair and glasses match.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Hang on a minute. So does her top. I noticed that. Yeah, and a top really suits as well.
What is this? Be nice to Drina.
Colour coordination.
Oh,
hang on, but there's a fact here because Margaret got the compliments in first. I had to come up with something else.
Yes, I have got something to say.
I was going to say, Margaret, I love your red nose hairs, but I don't think that's appropriate. Right. Okay, Drina, you've got something to say. Go for it.
Right. They've discovered, at least they're reporting the discovery of a cranog off the Isle of Lewis. And I'm a bit hesitant about saying it. It's Loch Burgastale. And it's built on wooden base. It's got a wooden base with stones on top rather than the other way around. And it was built 3,500 BC.
Woo!
And they used to look at it. They used waterproof cameras that were fixed distances between them, and the diver pushed them along. And this improves the image overlap, apparently. And it's called, you ready for it? Stereophotogrammetry.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
What?
It is. Can I just confirm this is the one that's been made by Southampton University?
Yeah. Yes.
I tell you what.
The
image for this is bloody amazing. So we don't say anymore. We're going to do this.
Okay.
Just the aerial looks absolutely scorking. Right. So we're going to have a look at that. Right. Well done. Thank you for that, love. Right. So. How many Jimbos have we got on tonight? Right, Margaret, I'm changing your name. I can't handle it.
Good. Yeah, go for it.
Right. I'll spell it properly. There we go. Right. Roger.
No.
All right. Whilst Roger's talking, I'll put something more appropriate there. Go on, Roger.
You can put your own name up, Margaret, if you want.
Can I? I don't know how to.
Hang on, sorry, Carl. Sorry, Rod. If you take your cursor up to the little
lady,
window,
I'm happy with that. Lady Margaret of the Lake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I like
Hang
that.
on. It's wrong. It's wrong. It said Lady Margaret Lily
of Lake. Of Lake.
No,
Lake. Just put it instead of in front of Lake.
So what?
Margaret Lady of Lake.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
It's just T apostrophe.
T apostrophe Lake.
Lake.
And then it's I.
Yeah. Yeah. All right then. We got it. Right. All right then. Tit. No. Oh no.
Tit. No.
Unfortunately, my cursors have gone a bit queer. But anyway, is that
better?
That's it.
Yeah, that's good.
Lady Margaret of Lake. Yeah. That's it. Look, I am confused. This has just gone wrong.
No, it hasn't. Right, it's fine.
Just Westmoreland dialect. Yeah.
Have we finished with Drina?
Yes.
Oh, thank God for that. Right, Margaret. Not Margaret. Yeah, Margaret. Yeah, Margaret.
Margaret. Yeah, Mags.
I haven't got any archaeology news, I'm afraid.
Look at that top there.
What's that?
Amod Amarth.
I'm on a math, and it's the Pursuit of Viking. There you go. It's this heavy metal band.
Wow.
Right.
There you go. Apparently, Drina's coming to the next gig with me, so that'll be good. do some moshing. Right. Talking about moshers, or actually, I nearly said something else about Roger, but talking about moshers, anything else you want to say, Rog?
No.
Go on.
Nice.
Nout. Oh. All right then. What about you, Andy?
No, I've got nothing this week.
What about you, David?
Oh, sorry. Oh.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right. So I don't. What we're going to do? We're going to go straight to Drina's article, right? So seeing as I've not used the yeah, we'll sort that out when we get to it. I got to get that onto the screen, then I got to press that button, and hopefully I can do it, right? So when basically we'll try and see if I can get this on straight away. So I got more windows open than the than something, right? Where is it? Oh God. Entire screen. No. Right, if Lock of Lewis. Is that the one? Oh, there.
It's near Lewis.
Now here we go. Right, is the image coming up?
Not yet.
It says you're starting to share, so it's on its way. Hopefully.
It's trying. It's
very.
Oh no.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ooh,
That's it.
that's a cranog.
Yeah.
Is there any significance in the fact that it's got wood on the base floor rather than just rock?
Wood or not?
It starts off with wood.
Yeah, most of them do seem to. The ones I've seen any pictures of are like cranogs, and they build a like you would with a today. You build like a dam around, and then with wood knocking into it and interwoven, then they fill it up.
Yeah,
and that often survives as well. So
it doesn't all look underwater, does it?
I don't think it is all underwater.
No,
underwater boats.
It's on top above water.
Carl, you're on mute, mate.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Thought it was quiet.
Where's Carl gone? Johnny.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah, good.
Oh, we're back to the cranog.
Aye.
Yeah.
Amazing. So archaeologists reveal. Well, this was actually, they revealed it to Drina first. So archaeologists revealed to Drina secrets. That sounds ominous. Of artificial island older than Stonehenge in Scottish Loch. A stone causeway now underwater leads from the loch shore to the island. It goes to show archaeologists have used innovative techniques to reveal the secrets of an artificial island older than Stonehenge in a Scottish loch, discovering a large timber platform hidden beneath it. Now, I think we had a few voices talking at once back earlier on, but one thing that we can say with Llangorse Cranog in Brecon, which dates to about 1,400 years ago, that we believe that lots of cranogs start off with a little ripple in the water, i.e. There's a little raised area in the loch, and what they do, they go to that raised area and they might build a palisade in sort of summer conditions, and they would put that into the mud, and then they might take out brushwood within that palisade. They might take out stones. There's loads of different ways of creating cranogs. There's no real answer to looking at them. But the island is Loch Borgastyle on the Isle of Lewis. Loch Borgastyle on the Isle of Lewis appears to be made of stone. However, the University of Southampton researchers have found that timber was used for the basis of the structure. So this is what I'm saying. When we look at things like this, it inevitably always starts off with something. So there might be a pile of rock sticking out of the loch, so people think that would be a good place to build something. Lochs are not massive structures, as you can tell by the buckets there. They're not massive buckets. They're people standing, but nevertheless, it's quite a sizable area. And usually, what would happen with a loch like this, it would have been a lot smaller. And as things have subsided, then things have moved out to the side. That's what we're talking about. So I'm just going to see if we can see any more images. If it'll give us any more.
Carl, do you think that I know the water level probably changes quite a bit.
The independent news wants us to see these images.
Carl, can you hear me?
I can't get them. Never mind. We'll go. How have we got to Nicole Kidman? Right, hang on a minute. Something's gone wrong. Right, here we go. It was going so well. Oh, there it is. Do you know, I should just not give up, you know? And there's one good thing about washing these bits of pottery out there. They're going to be clean. But look at that. That is a really nice collection of pottery. I've got to be honest with you. While it was known that there was some wood underneath the island, the extent of the timber structure was not discovered until excavation analysis started. So we've got some really nice bits of pottery there. So during fieldwork at the Crannog, archaeologists uncovered a layered wood and brushwood construction. So what we're saying is usually alternate layers of there might be brushwood and timber on top, and then as that subsides into the lake, they're going to put maybe stones on top of that, and it's going to keep building and building and building. And it's going that they found hundreds of pieces of Neolithic pottery, as you can see, submerged in the surrounding water. Really fascinating, this. And the archaeologist from Southampton University, Stephanie, said when we actually started excavating is when we realized that it wasn't actually as simple as they were seeing. It wasn't just stone. It was quite a large timber structure. So one thing that we do know is that surrounding the structure that we've already seen from the aerial photography, that would have, you know, that's all part of the building phase of the landscape that we're talking about in regards to this wonderful Crannog. And there they are excavating under the water. I'm wondering if I can maybe move that up. No, I can't. But what they're doing there is then right. It's Andy knows, and a few of us know. I know that excavating underwater is very, very difficult. So what they're doing, instead of just sort of troweling down there, they're using suction pumps to take the sediment up, and then that's going to be sent for any other artifacts. In doing, they're revealing this rich tapestry of timbers and all the rest of it, and stones within that part of the loch. Again, fascinating. So they, like many of these archaeological sites, they've known about this for a while. So they've known about this. It's obviously there, but they didn't start looking into it until 2021. Now they're now starting to think that this is a lot more significant. So they're saying back in 2021 they thought it was just stone, but they just found bits of wood sticking out, and they've sort of linked all these things together. So again, one of the things that they are doing, if we can get back to that image, which is a great image, I've got to be honest with you. And sorry, we got a little bit of a cut-off thing on the screen there, but really nice image that. I'm working with experts from the University of Reading as well. Stereo photogrammetry, which is a way of creating 3D computer imagery using multiple 2D photos to show how the island looks above and below the waterline as a single continuous structure. So what they're doing, they're sort of using a form of LiDAR that you might do sort of flying above the landscape. But this is stereo photogrammetry, which is putting 3D and 2D all together. And I actually thought personally, right, this is to do, I was doing a little bit of archaeological work the other day. I was recording a small sontage that I'd excavated here, and I thought, all right, I got to measure this and do a plan. So I started making a plan, and I found this little device on my phone, and I had a grid reference instantly, and I was able to transmit this thing on a map. And I just thought, right, technology is a lot. I remember thinking, right, I'm going to have to sketch this plan on a photocopy of a photocopy and do all the rest of it. And I thought, right, okay. So I had the grid reference, put the coordinates in, and it printed out a map for me, which I was able to put in the report. And I thought, right, that saved me 4 hours work. And this is exactly what they're doing with things like this. They're using modern technology. So they're saying through excavating and through the photogrammetric work that they did, we were able to build a picture of this structure, timber structure, and obviously get an idea of the different phases of this site. So back to the dates themselves. So what we've got this thingly brilliant pottery, right? And a lot of work went into this, and we've had a lot of really good dates come out of it, and all the dates are aligning to roughly 3,500 years BC, and probably up to about 200 years on. So this site itself, the timber work and all the pottery is associated with that. So we know that this is 5,000 years ago, 5,500 years ago. So we're properly in the Neolithic period. We really, really are. So we know that this was an activity that wasn't just taking place at the site. It was associated with the wider landscape of the Hebrides. So when we think about this, so back to the other image, and I'm just wondering if I can go to that again. Maybe I can get some more Cranlog images. So Cranlog. So if I can get some images. The 3 that we've got in the newspaper, in the independent newspaper. So if we type in Cranlog, we might be able to get more Cranlog find. This was totally new to me. Oh, so we got some more stuff. Oh, hang on a minute. Not that. So this is really interesting. Before the excavations of this, it's saying there that we've got 570 Cranlogs that we know of throughout Scotland. This was in 2019, and 170 in the Outer Hebrides. So loads of them there. So just see if we can find another image. There are a few, right? There are a few. So let's just. So that's more work that they're doing. So there you go on the right. And also, this is a really interesting one.
Yeah.
This is before the excavating. So you've got on the right-hand side there, you can see this causeway that led to this Cranlog. And I do believe it's the same one, because if you go to there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Got it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is the same one. So this is there it is. It's all over the news now. So there it is, and I'm just wondering if we got that's it. It's the same one. So that's a really nice thing. And then it's going to sort of a wooden foundation beneath, and there it is. We sort of, and that's a quote from this other website. So I'll just say what we're doing. So Cranlogs are small islands, as we know. Hundreds of them existed across Scotland. Maybe there's up to 1,000 of them. So while we still don't know exactly what these islands were built for, we in some cases we do. And I think the question is, were they being built there because there were problems on the land, or they were being built there because they were used for fishing, loads of different things like that. So they're built over a long period of time. So they're built in different areas for different purposes. So you're never going to get an overall idea what these things were for. So resources and labor are required to construct these things, which suggest not only a group of people building them, but a complex community building them. And when you think about it as well, on lots of these islands, right? On lots of these islands, what you are finding, unfortunately, we're overrun ads and stuff on here at the minute. What we are finding is that the trees are starting to get less and less in this type of landscape. So if we can go back to I've got a little bit of news on this, and we'll call that a day. So if I can get back on that image, there we go. So a few more little facts. So they've got radiocarbon dating, typical excavation techniques, coring. So this is where you'd core into the sediments down below, and you'd be able to see the layers of construction. So what you've got overall is 23 meters across. So as I said, it's small for it's not a settlement, it's a specific cranog and an island structure. So it may have been pretty big. Lots of resources would have gone into that, a lot. So we're not just talking about brushwood, we're talking about timber, we're talking about the resources going into produce this, cutting down trees, which would have been extremely valuable for islands in Scotland. And then eventually this would have fallen out of use. But in the meantime, what they've done, they've taken stone out there as well. So it's built up more of this island platform. So we'll finish with that last image that we got down here. There is a lot more on this, and that is that image there. So that again gives you an idea. So what we're going to do, we're going to go off that now, and hopefully I might actually go back to here. And it's caused me to have loads of windows open, which I'm going to probably have to close in the break. So if we stop the sharing, let's go on to my images, and we go to here. Oh, hang on, let's get my images lined up. So I've got to go down to the screen. Seem to be getting better at doing this. So if we go to there, nice. And I don't know where Will is.
No.
Right, yeah.
Could have been Trump's ancestral home, couldn't it? His mother's from the Isle of Lewis.
What? So basically his family comes from that cranog 5,500 years ago.
They tried to put him
well
on
done,
it.
We love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I tell you what, you guys are well suited for being on a Tuesday, because there's two people on a Wednesday who actually are big supporters of Donald Trump. So we'll just leave that one.
Really?
I'm not mentioning Kate.
Oh my
did
God.
I? Right there. Kate's an ardent supporter.
Oh
my God.
That's good.
Hang on a minute. You shouldn't judge a book by the cover. Right.
It's a pretty good guide, though.
You just said the word.
Well, Kate's book on the cover. Oh,
don't go down that one. I was just curious. That causeway that goes to it. I wondered whether I know the lake level goes up and down, but it won't go up and down that much. And I wondered whether it was a hidden causeway, so therefore only the people who knew could get out to it.
Yeah.
When?
Yeah, no.
When you mean when?
Yeah,
when they built
makes
it.
Sense.
Why would they have
on
it
a Wednesday?
hidden?
On a Wednesday.
You can paddle.
Well, they may want it as a retreat, like a religious retreat or a hiding place, or even keep cattle on it.
Yeah, and Andy's got a really good point. Andy's got a very, very good point. What we're doing in archaeology is that we're looking at that image and we're thinking, right, things were different back then, or water levels were higher, water levels were lower, right? The thing is sunk into the mud. All these different things we throw at it, but there might be simple explanations that Andy's right. Maybe it was never meant to be seen, because undoubtedly, if I describe cranogs, lots of cranogs are only accessible via boat, right? They're meant to be. You're meant to go out there, right? Some cranogs have got really narrow wooden walkways out to them, right? But this one looks like it's got a causeway that may have been visible fully visible, or as Andy's point is, it may not have seemed to be visible, right? So say, for example, at night, only people who know where the start of that causeway is going to be able to get to the Crannog, right? So if they got a little stick and they're going along, going stick, 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 stick. Oh no, we don't want to go that way. Stick, 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 and there we go. So Andy's got a good point, and I think lots of these images that we'll be looking at now in the next bit, right, is about that, because much of what we think about, for example, Roman era Britain, is based on what we feel today. And there was a historian that was talking about something that I want to look at today, which is called the Portway, which we're not doing at this minute. We'll be doing this probably after the break. But the Portway itself is another roadway that seemingly has a different meaning from what archaeologists and historians would discuss, right? And he basically said, well, why don't we use lots of the alignments of Roman roads today? And there are simple answers to that, and we'll look at that on the Portway. But if Andy's got nothing else to say, let's go on to my images.
That was good, thanks. I just kind of thought, walking on water, those that knew would be able to walk, and anyone else tried would just go straight in.
Yeah.
like Jesus.
Yes.
Look at Jesus.
Yep.
I think they probably built them to get away from something like wild animals.
Well, animals can swim, can't they?
It's quite
Not
easy.
all of them.
No.
It's quite an easy thing to be thinking of that. Yeah, it is. It is that. But before we go on to anything, are you seeing an image now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Right. So this is the thing, right? What we do is we think about modern day threats, and we think about an island like a Crannog. They would have had it there to get away from people, or they would have had it there to get away from animals. Well, maybe they were trying to get away from something else. So what I'm trying to say is that on these islands in the Hebrides, right? They were probably as sparsely populated as they are now, as they were in the past. It's just obviously people moved around, and people had small communities like this as they do today. Actually, the one point as well is we can describe Orkney as having more people in the past than it is today. But then again, how are we interpreting that? And when this idea about marginalization of people, why are you building these Crannogs in Crannogs when all the dry land, there's nobody living on it? Do you know what I mean? There's all these different things you can look at it, but it could have just been a fashion thing. People thought, right, this would be a good place to live, right? You're not going to be snowed in. You're going to be, it's quite you're going to have access to fish all the time. There could be hygiene, for example. Hygiene could be one of the things, right? Everybody's going to be fit and healthy because you're living in an environment that is probably quite hygienic. So there's loads of different ways of looking at it. Right. Now I got a few little Roman images today, and I just thought, well, just a few answers to a few questions, really. Now, one of the things that I don't do enough is look in the ground rather than above the ground, right? So what we've got what's known as the shrine room, right? Or the place of the standards, or the strong room, which is inevitably at the heart of lots of principias, the headquarters associated with lots of large forts in Roman era Britain. Now, these are really important rooms because lots of them survive. One, for example, survives at Saguntium, which is in Carnarvon, for example, what me and Roger have had to look at. You get these strong rooms, and they're really important because what you do see with this strong room is that when this site was being taken apart, they even took stones from the strong room as well. And one of the things that you look at Roman material is that inevitably not much survives. Why don't they just continue using these structures? But what I don't do is look more what's in the ground, like sewers and sort of other structures like this. And again, the Romans were really keen on keeping things safe and keeping security. And obviously, you're going to need a few bags of coins down here to pay the troops. So lots of these forts would have had these. Some of them were deconstructed, some of them in relatively good condition. There's one or two of these with actually really nice arches still intact, which I no doubt will look at in the near future. So hopefully my next image will come up. And this, a load of really, really interesting humps and bumps. And the reason why I wanted to mention this, something I keep banding on about is, if it comes up, oh, hang on. No, where I keep banding on about something which I can't get the image to you. There, I keep banding on about this, right? I keep banding on about the other frontiers in Scotland, right? Because there's another one that isn't exactly really shown on here because it's not identified on this really old map. But I've mentioned obviously what we've got. We've got the Antonine Wall here, and we've got a little roadway that goes up. There we go. And a really interesting place called Camelon. And if anyone's a fan of King Arthur, you can probably put two and two together and think about Camelot. Anyway, moving on. So the River Devon, that's really interesting. This here is known as the Gask Ridge. It's got most of the things on it that I'd show you, right? And there's another frontier. Yeah, I'm using my finger showing on the screen, and you can't see my finger, can you? So all of this here is known as the Gask Ridge. You've got signal stations, you've got a road. This is used as a frontier, right? And what we've got another frontier which bisects it. Follow my cursor, which is for another day, for example. But you've got this massive Roman fort, which is called as Inch Tuthill. But all that for another day. But I just wanted to basically mention that they're going at creating things beyond the Antonine Wall, and there's a lot more to Roman era Britain than meets the eye. There really truly is. And I was reading something really recently, and it was describing that, and I don't know if this is a sort of blasé comment to make, but lots of Scottish archaeologists say the following. They say it's very rare to actually have Roman inscribed stones used in the construction of medieval abbeys and cathedrals in Scotland. It's not the same in the south. Why that is, I don't know. But obviously, the idea of humps and bumps, which get to the other image, that there is a place known as Ardoch. And what we've got, it's describing it as a sequence of 5 defensive ditches at Ardoch, near Braco in Perthshire. Now, when we think about this, we then link it in with the likes of signal stations that are actually along here. It's got a number of these signal stations. Now, we could say that we really know what signal stations are. So obviously, when one signal station towers had its faggot lit, right, then that warns the other signal station that there's something happening. That warns the other signal station, and then maybe if you've got 2 lights shining, that tells you something else, right? But it wouldn't really do much, because if you're being attacked by 1,000 people and there's like 60 to 70 Roman soldiers along here, they're going to stand no chance. So you've got to sort of think about outside the box. And interesting enough, well, that place of command that mentioned last week, and I mentioned the inscription, the eagle inscription last week at Cramond. There is one really odd thing about Cramond, and again, I'll just chuck in little facts at you so you can try and remember them. So Cramond itself has a fort. That's where the Cramond lion was found not so long ago. And also etched into the rock is the Cramond eagle. Now, if I didn't show you that last week, I'm not sure why I didn't, but no doubt we'll come to it again. But the reason why I'm mentioning Cramond is that when we think about, just take this little cross section of a map of Scotland, obviously you've got Falkirk, you've got Edinburgh, you've got Glasgow, you've got Stirling. So that's what we're talking about. Individual bits of Roman era Britain continued in use. So when historians talk about the fact that all of this area was abandoned by the Romans, this harbourage and fort continued in use. And you're thinking, well, why? Really, why? So we're not really sure, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it as it is. We're not really sure of the relationship between the Scots and the Romans. We think we do. We think we're told by historians over and over again, and we're told by we see in Hollywood films, don't we, that the Scots resisted and they did terrible things to the Romans, and the Romans did terrible things to the Scots. But show me the evidence. Yeah. So again, there's lots of things that don't make sense. So the Antonine War, the AD 140s, by about the AD 160s, AD 170s, AD 180s, it was abandoned, but certain places stayed open for trade, for monitoring, and so on and so on. And also, we'll probably do another talk another day when I'll show you a map of Roman marching camps that go all the way to the furthest point of Scotland, right, into Caithness. But again, that's another look for another day. And one thing I really do like maps, and they sort of fix things on and sort of give you an idea of sort of where things are. Yeah. And again, maps that don't have, you know, modern roads and stuff really help. The problem is what the Ordnance Survey have done, they've issued maps with modern place names and modern towns and cities, so it all gets confusing and you don't really know where the hell you are. But something like this you do, and this is actually a really, really old map. This is probably about from the 1950s, to be honest. And so what we're going to do, so right, let's go back again. So we've done that, and again we started with the strong room, again proper Roman evidence, and there our dock. And think about something. I'm going to mention this. I'm trying to put little earworms in your head to think, oh, Carl mentioned that a few months ago, right? At Inch Tuthill, they found 1 ton of nails just dumped. When the fort was taken down, when the wooden fort was taken down, they found 1 ton of nails, actual handmade nails, a ton of them, right? And when they were actually found, they actually, in the 1950s, they actually sold them off to make money for the excavation. And people used to have nails in a picture frame with a description that had actually come from Inch Tuthill. Shocking. But the point is that, again, lots of things archaeologists talk. They say, all right, this pile of nails was buried in the middle of the fort and was actually covered with clay and actually covered with other stuff to stop the local people finding it. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, right? Inch Tuthill, right? All you need is somebody up the top of a hill, trying to just looking over, thinking, right, they're burying something there. It's a field day. So we think we know what's going on, but we really don't. We really don't know what's going on in Scotland. Do you know what? Who doesn't love not a half decent reconstructed drawing, but a decent reconstruction drawing, right? Now, this, I love something like this. I think I've shown you this before, but not really in the context. I want to show you where this is. This is actually a Benwell. I've got Benwell on a map. Where's my Benwell map? Okay. My Benwell map, we're going to have to show you after the break, because that's a set of images that haven't actually come through at this minute. So we'll go over that. But this is Benwell. It's more towards Newcastle, this one. And you're thinking, this is a really nice image, right? So, and the reason why it's a really nice image, it's showing 2 really depressed Roman soldiers and a woman and a horse or a donkey. And in the background, just sort of showing a few buildings, random buildings. And this actually leads into the area of the Roman fort. And one thing I would say is that Scotland isn't much different than it is weather-wise today than it was back in the past. So it's basically saying a trader's details are checked before she crosses the vallum, the ditch of Benwell Fort on Hadrian's Wall. And again, you're looking at the uniforms. These look really Roman. They've got a cloak over them, but it does make you wonder, right? It does make you wonder and start thinking, well, did the soldiers always look like this, or did they improvise a little bit, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, I'm not criticizing this illustration at all, right? The reason why I'm not criticizing the illustration at all, because I like it, right? But we can question some of the stuff on there, because what we are now starting to find is that they instead of having laced boots like that, you know, sandals, lace sandals, we're actually finding they've got proper boots, right? We also know, due to some of the tablets, the Vindolanda tablets, that some of the Roman soldiers are actually writing home for socks, right? And they're writing home for various other garments and other clothing, right? Which is really, really interesting. When they're actually writing home for socks, right? Is that telling you that there's not many sheep around, that somebody local can't make a pair of socks? Or is it that the Romans are wearing socks and the local people are not? What does that tell us? We don't really know. But and we just got to think, well, what we do have, for example, I know this is at Benwell, it's a few miles away from the likes of Vindolanda. So Vindolanda's towards the west, and this is towards Newcastle. I sat down the other day and I thought, hang on a minute, right? Why have we got all these tablets at Vindolanda, right? I do have strange conversations with myself occasionally. I just, why do we have these tablets of Vindolanda? Why have they survived? And I just thought, they've only survived because the person who writing that big pile of material was having a bad day, right? It started raining, right? And they just couldn't really set light to it all. When you do look at the evidence of Vindolanda, lots of the items at Vindolanda have been charred or have been slightly damaged. But it's likely when they were setting, that's a really good indicator as well of when things are happening at Vindolanda. So if you get a load of boots, and I've had another thought about the boots in a minute. Margaret, come back to me with the boots, right? So we'll come back about the boots.
I'm looking at the book that is holding. A tablet wouldn't have looked like a book, would it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna correct you. Yes, it would. It would have had two bits of wood, and it would have had a stitching as a spine, and it would have opened and closed.
Yeah, it has a protective cover. Yeah, because it's wax. So.
And it is a protective cover, exactly. So you can sort of put things in like that, and actually the arrows there, right? The arrowheads are actually evidenced from another image that we're going to show you, right? Two different types there, right? But no, please feel free to.
What about the boots then? Did they have lace-up boots like that?
Some had lace-up boots, some had more solid boots. We've got loads of sandals, we've got all sorts of boots. But anyway, getting back to the point I was talking about with the Vindolanda tablets, right? Vindolanda tablets are beyond interesting. They're amazing, right? So we've got the boots, we've got bits of timber, we've got bits of uniform, we've got all sorts of stuff with all of that. But the problem is when you're stacking stuff up to make a fire, right? On a good day, all that stuff would have gone up in flames, right? But they stack the material up on a day there was a sudden downpour of rain. So that would simply mean that when they tried to ignite what was in that big pyre, boots and tablets and all the rest of it, it just didn't go up in flames, and that's why it survived. It's because of the Scottish rain that lots of the tablets and so on have actually survived at Vindolanda. And there is one point to actually make with that. It's when they're destroying the objects, it's probably in the winter months where it's continuous rain and they can't burn what they're trying to burn. So that's a really, really interesting point. Now, I did say boots, right? Now, I was having another little bit of a conversation with myself the other day, and I thought, hang on a minute, Carl. I just thought, well, why do they just give them to the local population, right? Now, at Vindolanda, I don't know how many boots they found at Vindolanda, but the last count was about 6,000. They probably come across it when by the time they've done the excavations at Vindolanda, it'll be in the tens of thousands of boots that they found, right? And these are the ones that weren't burnt, right? So why didn't they just give these things to the local population? Why did they have to burn them? And this is the thing with Roman civilization, right? I've mentioned the nails. Why did they just give the nails to the local population? Why did they have to bury them in the ground? Which I don't think they buried them in the ground to hide them either. So I was just all these different points that are going around in my head, and I'm thinking, well, these artifacts, these things that they're buried, why don't they just give them to local people? So I'd like a bit of feedback on that. Somebody wise and learned, just maybe Judith. What do you feel about that? Why didn't they just give them to the local people? And there's one thing about this, right? At Vindolanda, there's a massive vicus around it with thousands of civilians, right? Which, as the Roman soldiers are going somewhere else, and the civilians are just left there, why didn't they just go to the local people? There's tens of thousands of pairs of boots here. Have them. Why have they got to burn them? Can somebody make sense of that with a non-archaeological brain? Go for it, Judith. She's not talking to me. Right. Okay, then. Margaret, what do you think about what I've just said? Why didn't they just give them to the local people? Because
maybe
when the soldiers...
maybe the local people didn't want them.
That's actually a big kick in the guts, isn't it? So why didn't they want them? Because the local people wore boots. It's just
I was just looking above the archway. I thought it said Hadrian Avenue, but it's Ave.
Yes,
isn't it? Hail, Hadrian.
Yeah,
not Hadrian Avenue. Is it? Hail, Adrian.
The second Augusta, second Augusta Legion made me fecit. That is the second Augusta Legion. Now, the second Augusta Legion is the same legion that is actually based. So basically, the Emperor Caesar, Hadrian, Augusta. I can't see what that other lighting says, but that is the second Augusta. Basically, the second Augusta Legion made me. We made this, right? And that's another point, that lots of these tablets were actually coloured in. They were like this. And when we think about anything like this, it's all about phases. And that's another point, right? That's another point. When we look at the archaeological remains that we excavate at Hadrian's Wall today, that is the what we would call the terminus antiquem, right? So basically that's the final stuff that we see, right? It's the final photograph, it's the final image of the landscape, right? So even though we try to think about what the Hadrian's Wall landscape looked like, all we're seeing is the last emboldened embodiment of Hadrian's Wall when it fell out of use in 420s, 430s, and so on. Anyway, Judith has just contacted me. Sorry, my screen has froze. I've let everyone down, including Carl. I don't really care about Margaret. I think maybe the locals used the nails against... this is interesting. Thank you, Margaret. I think maybe the locals used the nails against the Romans to hobble the horses or to scratch things. Well, I think what she's saying is that she's saying the nails at Inch-Tatil, could they have been used against the Romans? But the point is that they did that, to deliberately hide them in an obvious way would tell me that the local people would know the nails were there. Anyway, let's go on to another image. So the other image that we've got is this. I thought this was a really nice one, but then again, I'm critical, right? I'm very critical. Why am I critical? This is an aila, right? This is a cavalryman, right? So the Roman equites, auxiliary cavalryman on patrol in the far north of England, right? Now, I love illustrations like this. They're really, really nice. And this is this is a later auxiliary, right? So this could probably be an auxiliary about AD 300, right? But and notice there's no stirrups there. So, and I don't know who keeps coming or going, but it's making a nice noise. But one clear thing is that whenever you paint Hadrian's Wall, or whenever you show Hadrian's Wall, whenever you show the landscape around Hadrian's Wall, they always paint it as if it is today, right? So that is the issue. That there's a lot more. There would be a lot more around to see back then, and it's very likely. I don't know. I don't know if we've got archaeological evidence for this. It's very likely that the local people would have farmed right up to Hadrian's Wall itself, particularly on the northern side. I know some of the northern side gave way quite steeply, but it's quite likely that lots of the landscape was used quite intensely. And it's only the demilitarized zone between Hadrian's Wall and the Vallum in the south, the ditch, that people ain't really allowed to be in. But again, it's trying to interpret what's really going on with this landscape. And we know, we obviously, somebody's saying, well, okay, how do we know they had cavalrymen? Well, you know, we've got the turret rings, for example. We've got the horse harnesses, we've got all that stuff surviving. We've got bits of chainmail, we've got bits of the spearheads, we've got bosses from the likes of the shields. We've got a number of horse bones of different type, which were not really native to this landscape. So therefore, we know that this stuff is going on. We know that somebody would have looked like this, and they would have been naturally looking out the landscape. Those are the definites with archaeology. We can reconstruct this scene, but it's a shame there's not more trees. And it hasn't been a little bit more daring to take account of that past landscape. Now, I'm just going to... Oh, there they are. So maybe what I will do is I will look at this. Now, in the previous illustration, the one at the gateway, if we go back to that again, we go to... we can see that there's a number of arrowheads, right? Now, these are specific legionaries. Now, I would think it was slightly unlikely that they would be wearing this same gear on guard every single day, right? Maybe they would have just sort of, you know, I'm not really thinking they after a point they would have been this disciplined, right? But this is... Oh, yeah, we've got to go with that image first. So this is a rather interesting image. So that proves the archaeology of the illustration, the illustration that we just seen. So a variety of Roman spear and javelin heads recovered during excavations from the Museum of London Archaeology on the Walbrook, right? So obviously, I know we're portraying artifacts on Hadrian's Wall, but they would have been quite standardized, or randomly standardized like this, because different auxiliary units would have been equipped with different things, whereas the two soldiers that we just seen are actually Roman legionaries, right? So and these are now displayed in the London Mithraeum Museum, right? Very, very interesting. That now, one thing I wanted to say was that the difference between a legionary is quite clear. The legionaries were really much better equipped, usually with this headgear, and the auxiliaries were usually equipped with lots of different types of equipment. Some had chainmail, some had leather jerkins, some had a variety of different swords, longer swords actually. The infantry form of a gladius, but it was a longer sword. So when we're thinking about something like this, we can think that it's not always personal. If anyone's ever done reenactment stuff and done acting, when we use the word personal, it means that it looks too good to be true. So these two illustrations, we'll take a break after these two. Because we've got the portway and we've got the other illustrations after the break. But what we've got is you can always tell the legionary is the one on the right, the late Republican legionary of the Caesar period, right? You could think that in fact that one is a lot more flexible, flexible because they've got chainmail. But again, if you look at the boots, these seem to be strapped, and these seem to be more boots, as we mentioned earlier on, with some of the examples found at the Vindelander excavations. So back to this individual, we've got, this is known as a pilum. The spear is known as a pilum, and again, we've mentioned the pilum before. This was quite a soft metal in the shaft here. Obviously, this is the wooden shaft, so this bit of metal creating this sort of very thin sort of shaft here going all the way to the bodkin. So the answer is that when this hit an enemy shield, the bodkin, right, this metal here was too soft to actually take the impact of the bodkin, so it would have bent, and it would have then meant that the person holding the shield would have had to have dropped the shield because it would have been weighed down by the rest of the wooden shaft. This is what the pilum was about. Now, again, after the break, what I do describe is something that nobody ever talks about, right? Is the concept of the Roman army categorically had changed by the AD 300s. They no longer looked like this. In fact, they were a lot more portable. So, legionary of the early empire, wherein Lorica segmentata, the segmentata at the time, banded iron armor. Many other troops accompanied Aulus Plautius in Britain with AD 43 would have appeared like this. Mind you, we're assuming that all 4 legions looked like this. They may have actually been equipped slightly differently, but they would have looked, no doubt, very, very similar. So, and the other thing as well is it's always portraying these Roman soldiers as having no leg guards, which they would have. Some of them would have had strapping on their legs to keep them warm, woolen strapping. Some of them would have worn trousers as well. Trousers do exist in the Roman period. And this person would have had a cloak. I tell you what, right, this person would have been extremely cold, to be honest. Not so much this guy, but obviously winter fighting, he would have looked very, very different. So what we're going to do now, it's 8:12. We're gonna take a little break. I'm gonna grab a coffee, and but before we grab a coffee, let's see where we are. And I gotta see where we are, and there. And we're going to go there, and we're going to stop sharing. And now we've got who has actually joined us. So we've got Judith and Will.
Judith.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah. Anyway, apologies. I have some personal stuff I had to deal with. I'm actually traveling to Britain on Saturday night, arriving on Sunday, going into South Wales up the Rhymney Valley, and I'm going to be there for to the end of July, actually.
Oh my God, I'll have to meet you. Oh no.
Well, I might be able to fit a trip in to come out and see you, Carl.
You can fondle my sheep.
I'm dealing with a very urgent family matter at the moment with an illness that is going to be terminal, and so we have to see how it goes. But and I might not be online next week based on the fact that I getting settled in on arrangements wherever I am. So we'll have to see. But I'll send you a text, Carl. I'll let you know. I'll send you a message.
Yeah.
By the way, you've got to bring some carrots for the sheep, and you've got to bring some grapes for baby Baldric.
Carrots and grapes, not Canadian.
And some Barra Brith.
Eh?
And some Barra Brith.
And Barra Brith. Hey, Carl, I can cook Welsh cakes.
Oh, and a bit of that, and also Michelle could do with a new hat. I got to chuck it all in there.
A new hat, a regular American flat hat, flat cap.
Yeah, she wants one of them with "I love Donald Trump" on it.
Oh no!
All right, I won't be bringing one of those.
No.
Oh, now come on, Kate, hang on a minute, Andy. We've got to be very democratic here, right? There are some people who like Donald Trump, and Kate on the Wednesday class likes Donald Trump. So it's not fair to discriminate against bringing Donald Trump hats over because Kate would love one.
Well, I think that's fair.
Right.
That's
Anyway,
Wednesday, though,
thanks
isn't
very
it?
much for your time. And yeah, I'm going to follow you now, hopefully for the next hour, and then I'll catch up with the podcast later when I get time to look at it. And I do everything.
Yeah, you've missed the wooden crannog that we've that has been found in on the Isle of Lewis. So you missed that bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So thank you for that, Will. Sorry to hear your these things happen. So yeah, I've just found out my son is getting married next year. And I knew nothing about it in Canada, but that's life.
Owen.
Yeah, Owen. Yeah.
What?
He's found an American strumpet. No, a Canadian strumpet.
Where's he located?
We did work it out, but I've forgotten where it is now. It's somewhere
what
in Canada.
province is he in?
Oh, I did know. He's moved around a bit. So if you type his name into the internet, right, in Canada, his address comes up straight away.
Okay.
I don't know why he's done that, but apparently you can find him. So there you go.
We'll touch base on that. Who knows? Anyway, okay.
We'll touch base. Right. We'll go over to David in a minute, but I'm going to ask a minute. Drina, do you know Drina's iPhone doesn't sound as sexy as Margaret, so we're going to change that one. Right? Anything from you, Drina?
No, thank you. No, fascinating.
All right,
yeah.
We're going to call it Drina, the belle of the balls. There we go. Right. So right. Right. So right. Okay then. Right. David, anything you want to say, lovely?
No, thank you very much.
Are you leaving us now, David?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, David. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night, Dave.
Goodbye.
So who are we gonna? Whose balls are we gonna play with now, Roger?
Oh. No. No.
Oh, now taken out. Right. Okay then. Right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna have a word with Roger. Roger.
I said no.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Judith. I did see your text. Right. Judith said, "Sorry, my screen was frozen. I was shocked with seeing Roger's bald head, and it really upset me, so I can't be asked."
No, what happened was you were saying, Judith, where are you? I was tapping like mad on the screen, and nothing would happen, and then it threw me out, so I had to log back in again.
Oh well, you know,
my life at the moment, it's just a normal thing to happen. It's nothing unusual.
It's not unusual to have fun with anyone. Do. Right, okay.
So you're asking about why they thought they hid the nails, or maybe the locals were using them against the Romans. Because if you planted them in mud upside down, you could injure somebody's foot or a horse's hoof or do all kinds of damage, couldn't you? You know, like you can run somebody's car off the road using enough nails, can't you?
Yeah,
the you could do to
if I've got the name right, there were things called cataphracts or whatever that were like three bits of nail.
Trina.
Yeah, like four tracks. Yeah.
Caltrops. Yeah.
Caltrops. That's it.
They're like those the gate picture you had. There were massive ones just next to the gate.
I wondered what they were.
Right.
I've never seen them that big.
No, those are wooden ones.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah, I should have explained them. They're just we've got an idea that they had like wooden ones like that, but then again, there's nothing being found like that in the archaeological evidence. But yeah, as I said, those sort of floor tacks that we just described, they are a reality, and we do find them. And actually, we do know that they existed in the Roman period. We do know that they existed in lots of different campaigns in the ancient times. But in fact, they were brought back as objects that were used against various vehicles in France in the Second World War by resistance forces.
Wow.
So poor bloody horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't care about horses, Rog, but that's life. Right. Roger don't care about anything. He's just, he just thinks about himself. And he's yeah. Right. So yeah, I'm really upset that Michael Sheen is a supporter of Plaid Cymru, but that's life. I've leveled the politics out now. It's done. It's done. It's done. Right, Roger. We've done everybody now except for Andy. Anything you want to say?
No, thank you. I just remind you that that we're in Purdo now, so that means you can't talk about politics.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, I can't. I haven't, because Donald Trump isn't up for election in the UK, right? And I have mentioned a seemingly unelectable political party in Wales that won't do any good, and that's fine.
They've not mentioned his politics, only his name.
What, Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Donald
They
Trump.
just mentioned his name, but...
Hang on a minute. Is somebody... Hang on. Have I missed something? Donald Trump is standing in the elections on the 7th of May in Britain. I did not know that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
He probably did quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good.
I believe on his golf course in Scotland, the locals were putting dog dirt in the holes.
Oh.
Oh, so you'd get your hand in there and you'd get...
Yeah.
Well, no, you wouldn't. Your ball boy would, yes.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't be Donald, would it?
No.
No.
This is too much. This is right. Okay, we're going to take a break now, and we'll be back at 8:35, and I'll see you then.
Okay.
Right.
Roger the Dodger, Rog the Dodge.
Right.
Dirty Rod.
Oh.
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 He likes being called Dirty Rod. You should hear about the other names I call him.
Yali. Yeah, boogie. Oh.
Hey, Roger.
Hiya. It's interesting you coming over here. But you can't meet up.
Well, it can't be helped, but we were planning a holiday later, but circumstances require that we actually fly fairly quickly. So, yeah.
Did you say something had happened in the family?
Yeah, I have a sister who is terminal, and it's impending.
Oh dear, where is she living?
Pontlotin.
Oh, right. So sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. She's been struggling for a year, and she thought things might be better, but
Yeah.
yeah, anyway.
Well done anyway, but still it's a difficult one. I lost my sister when she was 67 through breast cancer after a long battle.
Tragic.
Off and on.
Yeah, sorry. This is the problem. I'm one of a large family, so we've gone through this at different times under different circumstances, but and I've still got there are 5 of us left, so
all right.
it's still, and we're all getting in, we're all past our 60s now and getting into our 70s and upward there. So
yeah, problems. Were you born in Pontlotin or?
I was, yeah.
I remember you telling me something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, all the best, but it's a difficult one.
Anyway.
No easy way to go through
it. Yeah, it's always difficult, and and again, we have very limited things that we can do, but and the fortunate thing for me is we've got some very close family at home. So right now I've got 2 sisters who will be with my other sister, and we've got some other family around, of course, nieces and whichever. So
right.
Yeah.
Oh well, difficult. All the best. It's not easy. No, but that's the thing doctors used to say. They deal with it, but they never get used to it.
Right.
Losing people and all that. You think, recently lost a brother-in-law of my sister's second marriage.
All right.
That was being a bit traumatic when she met him, and because he had bipolar condition. He didn't have it easy either.
Oh.
And it was a difficult time to start with, but they made something of it. And lost in 2012.
Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that.
Well,
health is the most important thing. No matter what you've got in the world, health is the most important thing.
Of course it is.
And it doesn't matter if you got piles of money or anything like that. It's if you don't have health and you can't enjoy life to some degree. Even simple life, and I used to think my life was relatively simple, although there might be some complexities in it. But it all comes down to the quality of your health is the most important thing. So
certainly does.
That's it. So
I say to my partner now here, Jill, that we could be doing this and doing that, but worrying really doesn't solve anything because you've got to pay attention to your health.
That's
Don't
it.
waste someone if something doesn't work, something in the house doesn't play up. Having a job done tomorrow, little thing where I think, okay, so the extractor fan, but it's getting somebody and getting it done, paying, fine, that's okay. But as you say, I've had a few ups and downs with the bugs this year so far, and just getting over a bad cough.
Right.
And trouble in the nose and the little niggly things, a bit of shingles and stuff. But I think, well, just nurse it and go through because overall I'm doing really well.
But with all of this, we have to take responsibility ourselves. We can't, if we fall too ill, we should take responsibility and opt out. I've got a lethal injection organised for me if ever I get to the state that I feel a burden, and which our responsibility as people. If we fall too ill, we should take that. Why should people suffer and see us being ill? Anyway, that's my response. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there's certainly something in that, and that what I've seen our family with the suffering and struggling just to make the best of it. This is a difficult task, and I've done quite well. I've at the moment 85, could be 86, lived the longest. So it's something finished tomorrow. Been a good run.
Like
all of us, you don't want to help it any distress, pain.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing.
There is one other important thing. This materialistic world that we live now. For example, you know, I've come to the point that you know, it's my responsibility to sort out my crap, right? And I'm saying it that way, right? Yeah. So for example, recently, this writing of the book, Roger, you know, the Barry book, right? I had loads of paperwork, right? And I was going through it and I thought, I'm not going to use that again. And I shredded it and chucked it away. And I had people saying, oh, why didn't you keep that stuff? And I'm thinking, well, why would I? Because the fact of the matter is, it's clutter, right? It's you know, I had old maps and all sorts of things which were no good to me. I just got rid of the lot. And I had really important records of lots of things. But the fact of the matter is, if I haven't used or done anything with them in the past 30 or 40 years, then it's my responsibility to get rid of them. Because if something happened to me, Michelle can't be left dealing with all this stuff. She can't be left with all this clutter, and that's another problem. We don't seem to be able to let people go and enjoy their lives. We've got to deal with all the crap that they leave behind.
That's a bad habit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I made with my two kids. Told them where the will is and lots of instructions, what the bank is, this and that and the other.
Yeah.
And said that it's all in there. And she's a lawyer anyway, but seen the will and other things backing it. So you think, well, that's the best I can do. And I've left some money to my sister's kids in cash, as well as the will itself for the rest of it for my immediate family.
Yeah.
And I think, well, it's important it's your job, I think, to as you're saying, organize the clutter. Any stuff you don't want, like I've done the same, stuff that's built up. When did I last look at it? Long time. Don't need it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it. Do you know? I've got to the stage. If I can't get rid of it on if I can't get rid of it on, say, for example, eBay. For example, I've got about 150.
Just seized up there.
Oh, you've got stuck.
Of old banknotes and stuff. They're and it's just clutter. I've got collections of stamps and all sorts of things, and they're not worth anything. They're not worth anything to anybody, right? It's just clutter, and the best thing to do with it is just get rid of it.
Yes, I've got some collections which could be worth something.
The thing is, mine are not worth anything.
Interesting to me, so it's worth keeping that. But as I say, I know what you mean.
They're not worth anything, and it's just like
sentimental.
Yeah, what are my children going to do with 150 first day covers? Nothing.
No. A different age and different this, different that. And they might be your children, but they are individuals.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't put onto them your clutter.
Why should you? And give them a lot of problems. I had to help this cousin with another cousin's will. And that got very involved in all sorts of things she didn't want to keep it legal. And that was an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
And you think, well, couldn't she have made it a bit easier?
Oh, yeah.
We did it, but some strange things happened, but we got through it.
Yeah, exactly.
But as you say, I'm with you because I'm trying to do the same thing to go back now and again. Even the list of, when I go, please let the following know.
Exactly.
People
Anyway,
say,
we got
That's more than that. No, it's just the way life is. Life cycle.
The life cycle.
Fine. Do it.
Yeah, you just got to do it because you know it's that thing.
Think a thing, you know.
Do you know what? Right? Do you know what? If I ever won a lot of money, right? I would pile all my stuff up in the middle of the field and set light to the lot because I would know that I wouldn't need any of it anymore because I wouldn't because my idea of absolute heaven is an empty building, right? Which is warm without any clutter. That's my idea of heaven. It's the reverse of having loads of money and spending it on crap. Because when you've got money, you can afford to have nothing. That's the point. The principle of having money and not to worry about having any. Because the thing is, right, you only need one set of clothes because you can simply buy another set of clothes and chuck that lot out because you don't need all this clutter. The problem is when you've led a life and you've just it's been a struggle. You try to keep hold of things, and because you think you might need it one day. If you've got money, you don't need any of it. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, it's true enough.
Right.
I had a very strange thing, like a waking dream.
Give it to us, love, and we'll start.
Well, you know, my husband Tony died 5 years ago,
and you haven't forgotten him one day, which is brilliant.
No, I did. He appears in my dreams, not centre stage always, but he's kind of in my dreams a lot. He's just there.
Yeah.
But the other morning, I heard him say, "I am here, but you just can't see me." Now, isn't that strange?
But that's correct.
Right.
And I was kind of semi-awake, but still dreaming.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, that's what you should be. Exactly. And I think those people who turn around and say, "Oh, you should get over it," you know, you should forget people. They're just completely wrong. You just shouldn't do that.
No,
you know,
it's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple. No.
And then we can observe certain things in his life and say to Will and Anne, I think, that, you know, we can see certain things with our senses, but a lot of other things, all sorts going on.
I've never seen anything in my life, spirits or anything, but that seemed very real. That really made me sit up.
Yes.
Maybe it was.
Isn't it strange?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is, you know, we just don't know. With even every one of us is magic in the way we all work.
Yeah.
Automatic machines, if you like, but it's damn clever. And I thought, well, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Number one, no matter what your religious leanings are or anything else, to make up your own mind.
Roger,
wow, it's clever.
Has anyone, Roger, right? We're going to have to crack on. But this is one thing that amazes me, right? You are there and I am here, right? Has anyone ever explained to you how this technology works? Because I
No.
just, you know, there are people say, "Oh, right, you know, Roger's talking in Cardiff. His thing is going up into a satellite and is coming back down and happens to land on my computer," right? I don't believe any of that. It just doesn't make any sense.
You know what I heard? It might not be true.
Oh, go on, Judith.
Go on. Radio was invented by the spiritualists who were trying to make contact with the dead after one of the wars. I don't know which war it was, but they were trying to use machines to contact the dead in seances, and they developed the radio.
So that would be.
It might not be true. It might not be true.
Non-living, non-invisible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strange things.
People in another realm.
I think Edison and Houdini were the pre-runners of trying to use a form of electronics to communicate to the spiritual world.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's something a very long time ago. Yeah.
Earlier than Baird and some of the other Marconi, earlier than those.
Marconi, yeah.
And the thing, Margaret, is that when you had that thought, vision, it seemed spontaneous then. It was just as if out of the blue.
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Blues are powerful spiritual.
Yeah.
Strange, isn't it?
Very strange.
My sister had a dream once, and she'd married again. It wasn't easy, but she also.
I mean, it could be nothing. It could have been just a dream.
Much. Yeah, and she had a dream one night where he was near her, the other side of some columns, and he was saying to her, "You are my wife, aren't you?"
Ooh.
You think, well, that made her think, because she thought, why did that come up?
Exactly.
Who knows? The mind is powerful, but wait a minute. Something powerful made the mind. You think, oh, yeah. So anything goes, I think. And I've had some experiences, but various documents based on, it was originally a television program about kids. And when I first saw it, I thought, no, it can't be. So I got the documents, and very, very interesting. And you think, okay, maybe, but it's another subject that is a take all night.
Shocking.
But you never know. But back to what Carl was saying is, all of us should, it's your job to leave notes on to what you are, what you got, so they don't have to start guessing and perhaps make mistakes. Make it hard. It's your job to do that, not them.
Exactly, and to make it as clear and precise as possible.
So there we are. Same
exactly. Right, folks. We're going to be here all night. Otherwise, we've got to crack on. So I've got some first images, and it's Margaret's fault for not she kept talking, and it was just all about Margaret.
I look like a ghost. I look really pale.
Are you Margaret?
Don't I look like a flipping
Margaret,
ghost?
stop it!
As white as a sheet.
The what?
Maybe. I don't know. Right. Okay, folks. Right. All right. Now, I just wanted to make a point that we've gone looking for from historical documents into the actual archaeology, and when we want to create a picture, there's two images which are starkly contrasting here, right? So when we want to create a picture of the Roman world, we can rely upon the historical stuff at peril. But if we look at the archaeology, we can really see what's going on. This is a really interesting thing. This is actually this is displayed in the Tremontium Trust Museum, Scottish Borders at Melrose. And what we've got is that we've got examples of Corbridge armor, right? So this is actually a replica in the museum. But what's really interesting, this is forensic archaeology, right? We know that this piece of armor was sitting upright, right? Because as it's decayed, it's all fallen in to the lower bits of Lorica segmentata at the bottom. So can you clearly see that? So archaeologically, if this was laying flat, it would all be flattened, right? So this must have been standing upright and just decayed and fell, all with everything fading, and fell into the bottom section of Lorica segmentata. But the interesting thing as well is this is not late Roman material. This is not what they were wearing in AD 420 along Hadrian's Wall. This is what they were wearing around AD 150, 160, right? So when this was abandoned at Corbridge, right, somebody probably just left it up against a wall, grass grow around it, and it all sort of decayed, and that's where it ended. And I think forensically, that's a really nice piece of evidence. It actually doesn't say that when you're doing your research about this one. So next, again, we can spend ages looking at these. The one thing that we do have, and this is something that archaeologists and historians don't talk about, is that back to this image. We always think that the Roman soldiers wore something like this all the way through to the end days of Rome. They didn't. They just simply didn't, right? they got more mobile, and this is really interesting.
No.
And what this is really interesting is the headpieces are different, right? They're more almost looking like caps, leather caps. This is actually late Roman legionaries on contemporary panels on the Arch of Constantine. So this is being erected in Rome itself. So we're looking at the Arch of Constantine, the latter part of ancient Rome, into the 330s, 340s is when this is all being carved there. And note that the shields are not, for example, these shields.
Yeah.
These are not testudo shields, which the Romans would have been wearing, would have been using in 150, 160. They're used in great effect in the film Gladiator. In you know, when they're showing that film, you know, dated around 180 or whatever. But when you look at this, these are actually more mobile. So these, note the large round body shields, which by this time had replaced the classical scutum, and these are the scutums. So one thing that we're looking at is that when we're analyzing the Roman world, we can't just analyze it as we do. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, people still wandering around in togas and sandals and stuff all the way around Britain. People in Roman era Britain were very, very different. They had altered their demeanor, their clothing. So we can't. What I'm getting at, we can't see Roman era Britain as one timeline. We can't think, oh, everybody sat in a school learning Latin, you know, everybody's building Roman villas. There's walls around every town and city in Roman era Britain. All of these things have interpretation, and they're not. And what we have in Roman era Britain, when you're talking about the end of Roman era Britain, some of the towns and cities by AD 400 have already been abandoned. Some Roman villas had already been abandoned, but new Roman villas were being constructed. What is all that about? So there's not just one clear timeline. This is why Roman era Britain is so interesting. So we're looking at this, and we're looking at the testudo formation, the field known as the scutum, and when we think again the most Roman of military formations, we think about the testudo, and we see this on the column of Marcus Aurelius in Rome. We've seen that big sort of huge column of Marcus Aurelius in Rome. We've examined that again. That was built in the reign associated with Marcus Aurelius, who died by AD 180, and again, this is not being told to us by history books. This is being told to us by archaeological monuments, like carved monuments like this, which is really, really important. Now, lots of people are interested in the following: this little inscription. People are so obsessed with the disappearance of the 9th Legion, for example, right? So the 9th Legion. So what we've got here is we've got, as the description says, I tell you what, let's zoom in on this. Let's took that there. So one of the most important inscriptions from Roman Britain, an inscribed limestone slab dating to AD 108. Now, this is really interesting. It's originally installed above the newly stone-built southeast Porta Principalis gate at the Legionary Fortress in York. Remember that Legionary Fortress, AD 108, York had been the base of the 9th Legion. This is the last time the enigmatic Legio 9 Hispana is mentioned before it disappears from history. And guess what? This is not written history as in on a scroll. This is actually a carved history associated with the 9th Legion. So again, inscriptions, understanding, telling us about Rome, looking at the archaeological evidence rather than what the historians want us to see. And there's lots of obsessions in Roman era Britain, you know, obsessions like the disappearance of the 9th Legion, obsessions about bridges, obsessive ideas about, you know, the Romans are here to extract as much as they can out of the country, and that's not true either. But it does ask the question. I'm going to put this to you today, and we're not going to discuss it any further. Why are the Romans actually wanting to keep hold of Britain anyway? What is the point? Loads of people would say it's a huge drain. It's not really producing, or is it a status thing? Being a status thing is all gone. Is it something else? All these questions can't be answered today. That's for another day. But that's where we're actually going. So what I want us to do now, I want us to go to here, and I want us to look at some more images. And there's these ones, right? There's these ones. Now, this is rather interesting, right? Now, I'm just chucking this out there, right? We're just chucking this out into the mix because we do Roman roads at the end of today, and we did Roman roads last week, right? Won't be doing Roman roads next week. But so the Roman campaign of conquest in Britain were facilitated by a sophisticated network of military roads, which later become the province's key trunk roads. Is that true? Is that fact? Is that fiction? If you read somebody like Karl-James Langford, you will see that the military roadway system is not as advanced as that statement makes. And also, is there a key operable trunk road system throughout the whole of the period of Roman era occupation in Britain? The answer is no. So we've gone against that one. So, but above the Ermine Street heading from London through Lincoln to York. Now, that's a really interesting one. The Ermine Street was extremely wide indeed, and there it is. Now, the question is that being used by the military? Is that being used by the civilians? Is that being used by everyone? The one thing is it's not really being used by the military at all after probably around the 180s, 180s, got my dates wrong, 130s, 140s, because the military's already up north, right? So that's one thing. But you can clearly see that there's something interesting about these roads, which will come on again. I thought I'd put that in there, sort of a little bit of a sort of thing to think about. And it keeps on flashing up on the screen. Guernsey archaeological excavations. If anyone's got a YouTube, the Guernsey archaeological, they're excavating on Alderney at this minute. Fascinating work. Now, before we go on to the next images, and before then, we eventually go on to the likes of the Port Way tonight, right? And I can't seem to get rid of those images, those things. Is it going to go? Go back to that. I got these little lines either side. I can't get rid of them, but they're gone. Now, this is really interesting. This tells us all about what the Romans thought of their world. This is written by Polybus, roughly around what?
The image we've got up is the black and white of armor. Is that the one you wanted up?
No. How long have you had that image up? Did you just have
some minutes?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. What I got to do? I got to go back to this, and we go. If we go back off, we got a statement. Let's look at the statement. Let's go back onto the statement, and there. Right. With this new tech, I just can't just flick and flip around. I've got to go back to base. So there we go, and there. You've got this on screen, so that's good.
Yeah.
Now, this thing about Rome, right? And when I say this thing about Rome, is the feeling of Rome. And this is from Polybus, writing about 150 years BC, well before the Romans ever thought of coming to Britain, 200 years before. Well, finally wanting to settle here, put it this way, under Claudius. So it goes, for who is so worthless or indolent as not to wish to know by what means the Romans have succeeded in subjecting nearly the whole inhabited world to their sole government? So at that stage, they'd already defeated Carthage, right? Or were just about to eradicate them. A thing unique in history? Or who again is there so passionately devoted to other spectacles or studies as to regard anything as of greater moment than the acquisition of this knowledge? Now, thinking about all of that and thinking about the context, Rome itself, even at that score, was just a small sort of republic, right? So by the time we get to the Roman world and we start to think about the Roman Empire, you still think that, hang on a minute, it still doesn't include the great civilizations of Central America. It still doesn't include the great civilizations of the Indus Valley. It still doesn't include great civilizations in Africa and China. So, but the one thing, that's what the Romans thought of themselves. They thought of themselves as this great sort of power, this great sort of power of people, that the idea of Pax Romana, the idea of the Roman peace, that everything was looking at Rome and everything outside Rome was barbarian. But the fact of the matter is that statement is so far away from the truth. But the Romans thought that to be real in their true hearts, that they had civilized most of the world. So, right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to there, and hopefully we're going to open another window, and I'm going to say, can you see the other window? And this?
No.
Can you see a little strip of map?
No. Still got the text.
Anyone there?
No, still got the text.
It hasn't transferred over. Right, okay, I'm gonna still got the text. Okay. Right, so again, I will figure this out eventually. So let's go back to there, and you can see me on the screen and everybody else. So that's the main thing. And you can't see Judith.
Oh,
and there's a sheep.
Judith.
Yeah. Judith is a sheep. Right, can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, got a map.
Map.
Nice bit of a map. Yeah, good. So I just wanted to mention that you know, when you're looking at maps like this and you're looking at the place names, we can't not be inspired by what we're seeing. Now, one thing that I've been doing is I've found an image recently of a stretch of Roman wall that goes further than Wall's End there, right? And there's discussion that Hadrian's Wall actually does go all the way over to the north side of South Shields, but it hasn't really been found. But again, there's loads of fascinating things by looking at maps, place names that are really inspiring. And when you think about it as well, we've got so many Roman place names for modern localities. And I think that's in itself amazing. And also, some of these place names actually come from inscriptions, not just by documents that have survived. So that's another point. And this. So I thought I'd bring a little bit of one of my the Romans in South Wales book in here. And I wanted to sort of show you this because in many ways, this is how lots of Roman era Britain actually looked. This is how it would have looked in places like Scotland. This is how it would have looked in lots of areas of Cymru Wales, maybe places like Cornwall. And obviously the idea of a square building, some areas of bathhouses and so on, which isn't really present on this image. But the point is with all of this is that whenever we do look at Roman Britain, it's not always about forts. It's not always about amphitheaters. It's not always about the great bits of wall of the basilica that actually still stand, for example, in Lincoln. It's about the little people. It's about the people continued on nonetheless. Right, so I want us to do the Port Way now, and I want us to end with this tonight. So let's just go to the Port Way. Let's stop the sharing. And there was something different about me looking at the Port Way, something that I sort of realized early on in the week. So let's get those images up. And I'm fiddling about with the screen here. And there we go there. And we go there. Good. Now this is something different. And we're gonna put this back on, and we go, where are we? Share. And Michelle's currently outside looking in the dark for a car key. So great. So after this, I've got to help her looking for a car key, which is black in the dark.
Well,
it makes no sense. But there is a camel on the key ring. Right. So are we looking at this?
a map, southwest.
With the red line.
And the red line, yes. So the blue dot is the Caliver Atrabatum. And
What?
I want, shut up, Rod. Caliver Atrabatum. You wanted me to say it again?
Oh my God.
Yeah, Caliver Atrabatum. Love it. So this is known as the Port Way. Now, this is a rather interesting road because it points me in another direction. And the reason why it points me in another direction, if you run with the flow a minute, right? So there is the Foss Way, yeah, and here is the Port Way, right? And here is Exeter, which in a way is sort of away from the Foss Way. So we were talking about the Foss Way being like this big frontier, sort of. We were talking about that last week, and we were saying that, well, I was saying that the Foss Way is sort of the most northerly advance by about AD 60, right? But it got me thinking. So if we go to a less confused map, and we'll go back to these images in a moment, right? Hang on, where's that? Right. So if you look at this, and it got me thinking, I'm thinking, right, okay. So you follow my little hand and you go all the way to from Exeter to Dorchester, and you go over to Caliver Atrabatum, and you go to London, and you go to Camel and Dunham. What that gives you is a line, right? And all of these places are actually connected. And I just got thinking, I thought maybe in the history books, there's a piece of the history missing, right? So when you go to look at this line is rather confusing, right? This actually doesn't make any sense on this map, because we sort of already know that there is this line that runs at, follow the cursor, all the way through to Lincoln, right? So I thought, I'm going to dismiss this map. But what is interesting to me is thinking that maybe this Port Way existed as an earlier frontier in the conquest of Roman era Britain, which to me would actually make perfect sense, because as we talked about divisions, and if we go to this and we follow this, that would make perfect sense for a little while. Follow my cursor. This is probably and Londinium's not even formed by then either. So, but the route way is already being placed into Camel and Dunham from Caliver Atrabatum. So, not to get too confused, there's a few points here. Is the Second Augusta Legion occupied Isca very, very early on, right? We're talking about the future Emperor Vespasian making his way through to Exeter via Dorchester, all the way through to Exeter. And I'm told that along the way, if you go by what some historians say, that along the way a road is being planned or constructed, right? Which would mean that in a way that is the first frontier of Roman era Britain. So again, talking about frontiers and boundaries and so on. So if we go to look at where this is and what this means, and I just sort of read some notes. So the Port Way, as roads go, and if you notice, it hits Caliva Atrabatum. Going back to the plan again, I just realised something when I mentioned that. So Caliva Atrabatum, right, is already in existence before the Romans hit Britain, right? And if you notice that these roads are sort of all diverting into Caliva Atrabatum, the port way. So it's quite likely as well that the portway may actually be one of the most early highways that existed before Roman era Britain. So it's not only just, and that's another point, right? That's another point. When you talk about, for example, Vespasian marching all the way along here, right, getting all the way to Dorchester, which, by the way, a mile away from Dorchester is actually Maiden Castle. So you've hit Maiden Castle, and you go over to Exeter. The reason why I'm talking like this is that years ago, I used to believe the historians that used to say that Vespasian's building a road as he's marching, and when he gets close to Dorchester, right, the people in Maiden Castle get so stressed they abandon Maiden Castle because of this sort of slow road coming towards them that's being constructed, right? If you conquer a country by building a road, that's not going to work. But if the road already exists, that's really interesting. But as we do know that Maiden Castle was well already abandoned before the Romans ever got to Dorchester anyway. And they happen to head towards Exeter, which is the new base of Isca, which is the base of the Second Augusta Legion, which eventually ends up in Usk and then Caerleon and then along Hadrian's Wall. I mentioned last week this locality, which is Sor Biodunum, Sor Biodunum, right, which is Old Sarum. I mentioned Old Sarum last week. That was very important along this routeway. And when you think about it, why are the Romans getting all this credit for building this when Caliva Atrabatum already exists? Roads would have led in and out of Caliva Atrabatum. They're simply being reinstated and reused and made bigger and wider so that actually the Romans can actually get further and further west to Exeter. Very, very interesting thinking this way. So the portway itself, unlike the Fossway, which is a blinking 230 miles long, right? The big chunks of this route, the portway, I think the major chunk from Dorchester over to Silchester and beyond is roughly about 36 miles in length. So by the time of the Roman occupation, Caliva Atrabatum and Sor Biodunum already formed an important routeway. So the term portway is sometimes used to refer to this whole route, although the section between Londinium and Caliva Atrabatum is correctly known as the Devil's Highway, because it is. So again, when we think about all this and we try to put all of this sort of history in, why this is one of the things, right? We've got the book by Ivan Magaret, which is Roman Roads of Britain, which we showed you last week, and the numbers on there, 43, 42, portway being 4A, 4B. These numbers are given to these routeways by Magaret, and I just sometimes rather amazed why historians are so obsessed by these Roman roads. They're unbelievably obsessed. And when you sort of look at something like that, yeah, you can see that going off in the distance. Why are they so obsessed? There's nothing greatly special about them in a way. And there's this historian there's a historian online who started doing lots of videos and research and stuff, which I've been watching on YouTube for a while. And he goes out to all these routeways and he studies them. And he's saying that, for example, the portway, at one stage, somebody's built a dike going across it, right? So they cut the portway in half. And he's saying, well, if the roads were being used for communication and for traveling about, why are people actually building dikes across them to stop the movement of people? You know, what is going on? Are they as important in the Roman period as historians say, or as I say, the water systems equally used and to a more excessive way? So when we think about this routeway, and I wish I didn't have that image that we just seen there. If we go back to this map again, where it's got a portway, it says a bit of Ackley and Dyke there was the portway. So this was studied by that guy, Sir Richard Colt Hoare, the antiquarian who managed to dig half a dozen burial chambers in a day. Also a roach smith that we'd come across. Thomas Codrington, remember him up in Yorkshire? So when we think about this, we've been tracing and understanding this routeway for about 200 years, and there's this obsession with it. Now, Caliver Atrebatum is a really interesting locality, and there it is. And I should have got an image of that today. But all these sort of lanes, these roadways are actually leading to them. So that's the key point. Lots of these roads, like this route, are pre-Roman in origin. And the portway itself indicates a possible frontier, as I've mentioned, going all the way from Exeter all the way through to Dorchester, and then back up through to Caliver Atrebatum. So when we think about this, and when we try to understand how important and maybe how not important these sites are, we've got to think who was responsible for maintaining the roads. When these roads were constructed or reconstructed or built on earlier roads in regards to the portway, we think that they've got to be maintained. And when you start to go into moving into Roman era Britain into the 200s, things get very different. So what happens is the administration changes, the responsibilities change. So what's basically said of lots of towns and cities is that you are responsible for the maintenance of the roads. And in many cases, nobody maintained the roads. So that means that you don't have a Roman road network in constant use along all its roads for the entire period of Roman era Britain, from AD 43 all the way through to way into the AD 400s. So we'll just talk about this sort of last bit now. In 1879, they believed that some of the road surface was actually was still fairly stable, metalled, they describe it, but we don't really know that. They're talking about along some lengths of this road, the ditch still survives in the 1870s, but in many places it's completely gone. There's also descriptions as well, instead of like a sunken lane like this, in fact, there's still some camber, there's still some raised area of the road still in existence. So a lot has changed in the past 150 years. So when we think about the legacy of such a road, and we think about the archaeology, let's try and discuss that with that image. So when we think about lots of these road alignments, many don't follow existing trackways, many don't follow existing roads, some haven't been found. Lots of farmers are describing as finding weird gravelly surfaces running across their fields. And in many ways, that's how, from the 1850s, people started putting some of the routeways of the Roman roads together. In 1889, for example, this port road, the Great Military Road, they felt could be traced out of the main gateways of Caliph Atrebatum. They also, a chap by the name of Codrington, a great historian, archaeologist in 1903, said that being able to find the road is very difficult at times, because when some of the routeways of the road was surveyed, after time it becomes eradicated by agricultural activity. But it's useful to think that we've got lengths of roadways like this. And when we go back to looking at this plan, the words that we used last week in regards to the Fosse Way was a sense of boundaries. When people are actually looking for trackways, which indicate lots of these Roman roads, they could equally find hedges following where the roadways once stretched. There's one example of this when I was doing some surveying work near a place in South Wales called Bridgend. And it was called the Red Hill Roundabout, not Red Hill in Crawley, but Red Hill Roundabout. And we couldn't find the road at all. And then suddenly we thought, hang on a minute, there's a hedgeway here, right? That seems to align up with what the historians say is where the Roman road went. And lo and behold, we looked in the hedgeway, and what did we find? We found that there was like loads of bits of stone, which the reason why it's a hedge is because they can't farm there. So when they're talking about going back to this wonderful locality at Old Sarum, here to Old Sarum, the alignment of the road can actually be traced, right? So they've got bits of the road that can be traced. And they're saying as well, when they built some of the railways in time, some of the road runs parallel to that. And thankfully, when people have been tracing this portway, they can actually look at old Ordnance Survey maps. One problem with old Ordnance Survey maps is, as lots of us will experience, if you go to the National Library of Scotland's, which I'll show you, I'm going to show you that at the end. I'm going to go to the National Library of Scotland website, and I can actually show you some maps and demonstrate this, which would be a good little bit of practice for you all if you ever get onto that website. In the 1870s, mid 1870s, basically the Ordnance Survey would go out and somebody would say there's a Roman road over there, and they'd write down Roman road, right? So when people are actually trying to find proper stretches of Iron Age / Roman road in later periods, in many ways we've got to dismiss the writing on maps that say Roman roads, because usually there's something else. And if you look here as well, it's got, for example, the Route 4. So this is the fourth in importance of Roman roads in Britain. And last week we did the Fosse Way, so that was the fifth in importance. So obviously we've got to look at the Ermine Street and Watling Street, not next week, but another time. And when we think of, if we go back to that illustration now, and we'll go on to the National Library of Scotland. I know you probably feel that when I'm examining Roman roads, you probably feel that I'm a little bit dismissive of them. I'm dismissive of them for a reason, because there's a lot more going on in Roman era Britain than just these roads. I'm very dismissive because the Romans created a lot more than just trackways that had followed earlier Iron Age paths. That's what I'm getting at. But I'm also getting at what I said last week, that when we think about these type of things, if they're not used as modern day trackways and they haven't faded out and been ploughed out in fields, they're used to define hedgerows. And I think that's really interesting when it ties in with when we looked at some archaeological sites in Wales, some about 2 years ago. We were looking at some Iron Age structures in West Wales, which had been archaeologically excavated. And we had an aerial view, and Andy spotted it. I said, well, what can you see in the landscape? And actually, the modern hedgerows are actually defined by the site that we're actually looking at. So these types of things are really, really important in studying the landscape. So in 1 minute, I've just been dismissive of roads, and the next minute, I've been very sort of that they are very, very useful as our disused railway tracks today. They're very, very useful. So as we go further and further into Roman era Britain, we're going to see more of these things. But one thing I want us to do as a treat today, and I'm going to get to these ends of these images, just these ones. And hopefully the technology is not going to fail me. So I'm going to probably have to go out. We have to type in National Library of Scotland. We're going to have to go on to the website, right? And then I think this would be a good one to end with this map here, just to sort of end with the Roman stuff. So no, we're not going to look at all these Roman roads. We got the Ermine Street there, for example. That's the Ermine Street. And this is the follow the cursor. That is actually Watling Street, right? So we've defined these. And remember what I was saying about roads sort of being used as sort of definition for boundaries for tracks of various different former territorial bits of Britain. So this is what we could look at with some of the bits of road. But what we're going to do now, we're going to go to stop. And we're going to go on to the National Library of Scotland, right? So it's NLS. This will be a little treat for you all. There we go. I do use it a lot. And I actually use the National Library of... it's not on. You can't see it. Hang on a minute. Right, sorry. I was getting so excited then. So let's just have a look at this. And I'll tell you how I use this now. Let's just share this. If nobody's ever seen this, it's going to be a little bit of a treat for you also. Sharing's caring. And I'm going to ask you all if any of you have actually been on this, seen this website. So where is it? I just right, hang on a minute. Now, oh, there it is. So we type on there.
Carl, we can see the image, National Library of Scotland, but we have no sound.
I think he's muted himself, has he?
Yeah. It's very reasonable of him, but
yeah, had enough.
Yeah.
Shut up!
Well,
now I wanted to know, right? Has anyone ever seen this website or been on this website?
No.
As nobody's been on it, right? It's fascinating,
Carl,
right?
I use a website, Archie UK. That's ARCHI UK. They have a composite of maps which are drawn from the National Library of Scotland, and they cover quite a historic period. And I've used them quite intensely in the last 12 years, creating my various videos because I use them as a resource.
Yes, Michelle, we've got a bit of a light. We've got that as well. But this is the one that I use, and the reason why I use it, right? I tell you this as an application. So, say for example, I'm writing my column for the local newspaper, right? And which I do every week, and I use this every week. So we're clicking on that there, and it's just about to come up. Hopefully, it's going to come up. It might be a bit slow. So say for example, I'm thinking, right, let's just this is Cadoxton in the Vale of Glamorgan, right? So I might be thinking, right, I'm I'm writing about this building here, which is the Cadoxton Court, right? I might be saying, right, what did the landscape look like in 1878? I can clearly see on the Ordnance Survey map, it's mainly agricultural land, right? But then I could then go back out of this, and I could then go. Also, we've got side by side. I'm going to show you side by side. And what we're going to do, we're going to go up to Cumbria in a minute. And what I might do is there's loads of other maps here. You can see these here. So I might be thinking, right, okay, what did this, we've got a map there from an aerial view. Let's go with the aerial view, right? This is an aerial view of the same area. And this is a map of, this is an aerial view of the Barry area in 1947, right? And one thing that I'm really interested in is these buildings here, right? And the reason why I'm really interested in these buildings here is lots of them don't appear on the maps, but they appear on the aerial view, which is brilliant. So we've got whole blank areas on the map. So this is an aerial view from 1947, which is absolutely great. There is another thing I'm going to go on to. I'm going to show you Cumbria in a moment, right? But what we've also got side by side, right? And what we've got here is that we've got we can do grid references. So we might be thinking about Hayes Mill, which is here. So I've instantly got a grid reference because those are the grid references at the bottom coming up on the screen. So if we zoom in there, we can zoom in there. And also if we go, it gets clear in a moment. So what we do have is this is getting clearer and clearer. And I could show you something a minute. That, hang on, is it right? Yes. I'm just going to try and show you something a minute. We go along here. I'm just going to show you my parents' house, right? That's my parents' house there, right? And so interesting. Oh, hang on a minute. That's my car. So it was obviously taken when my car was parked outside my parents' house. So what I'm going to do now is one final thing, we'll go to Cumbria. And this is an absolutely brilliant resource. And I'm just going to try and hang on if I can get that there. Right, keyword. Hang on, can we get that? We're still there. Right, okay. Map. I might have to go back out again. Hang on. NLS. I got to go back out. We'll go back onto Cumbria, and we will. So what we do, we're going to pinch the screen here. It's a big country, Britain. We're not really. And actually, I used to. Whenever you got American tourists over, right? You always stand by here and you say, look over there, you can see France. It gets them every time. Honestly. They used to, I've had this one guy saying, oh my God, that's where Adolf Hitler stood over there. And you say, yeah, my God, he could have, yeah, I'm glad you're from Canada, mate. Right. So there we go. Interesting enough.
Goodness.
There we go. We're going to zoom in. We're not going to pinpoint Andy's car, but there we go. We got Alan's side here, and if we go with, should we have a side by side? Yeah, here we go. And there we go. It's going to come up now. We're going to do that there. And basically, right, this here is the Duddon estuary, which Andy goes on about all the time. I am right, aren't I, Andy?
Andy, say yes.
No, it's the Kent estuary.
Where? Why didn't you correct me? Where's the Duddon estuary? Where is it?
Next, other side of the Furness Peninsula, north.
By there.
No,
Oh,
that's
right?
11.
Andy, I've got myself in a pickle. You don't worry about it.
It's fine.
So basically, what we've got here is we can scrape the screen down, and there we've got Arnside there, and then we've got the map in here, and we've got the railway all the way across. And this is so easy, this website, to use. It really is, and it's the map finder thing and whatever, and we're just zooming in there. There's Drina. You can see her now sunbathing on her lawn.
oh, Andrew.
Drina. Isn't this absolutely great, folks?
Yeah, time's getting on.
All right. I thought you'd appreciate that, Rog. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that anyway. If you ever want me to do any of this mapping stuff again, just ask me. I just wanted to show you that to you tonight. So, right. Roger's having a moan. There's nothing like an old moaner to moan. Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to find out if there's any questions. Drina, the bell of the balls, anything you want to tell us?
Well, when I did Roman history on roads, it felt like all the roads had stone surfaces, and that's not true, is it?
No, it's not true at all. No. It's not true at all. It's because we've got examples of timber surfaces, we've got gravel surfaces, we've got sort of all sorts of surfaces, and we've actually, and also back to the point that I've made before, right? If you're building a road on solid stone, right, why do you need to have a surface?
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before as a planning archaeologist this one time, right? I remember being on a building development site, and the developer said, right, you're here to monitor the archaeology. And I said, yeah, that's what you're paying me to do, right? And we actually went out and bought us fish and chips that day, right? They tucked us into the corner. I didn't know they were continuing on work, but that was something else. But anyway, we within about a foot, we hit solid bedrock, right? And the council inspector said you've got to cut through the solid bedrock to get down a whole meter, right? So we basically ripped up all this stonework, destroyed it, and then the landscape was so uneven. They should have just built off the stone, right? I think I remember said this last week. You should have built off the stone. So the whole point is if you've got a stone surface, why do you need to do anything else with it? So for example, places like Derbyshire, right? You just dig into the surface, in Yorkshire, you dig into the surface and you've got you've got solid stone, right? Why do you need to do any more work? And the Romans weren't stupid, and nor was anybody else. You just use the existing surface that you've got. And my point as well, in the Vale of Glamorgan, there's a section of Roman road near a place known as Cowbridge, and the location is called St. Hilary Down. I remember going up there with my granddad Nobend, and we used to call him Nobend, right? Because he was called Noah, Nodger, Nog. He had so many different names. And when we went to the top of the road, right, it was still used as a road then, but it was solid. It was solid stone. The solid stone was sticking out, and I was trying to find the Roman road, and I just thought, well, then years later, I thought this is the Roman road, right? I'm standing on it because it's solid rock.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is you can't build stone roads in areas where there is no stone. What are you going to use, right? And it's just like you can use anything. And this is all really important that you've got to look at more towards the Romans. It's a point of communication, right? So why does it need to be stone all the time? But that's the point.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is if you've got a muddy, boggy, salty, sandy landscape, right? How can you put a solid stone road across it? It's just going to sink into the mud. So you've got to think about all of these perspectives, and it's not it's not clear cut, to be honest. Anyway,
thank you.
That answered your question. Good.
Good. Yes.
Good. Roger had a good old moan. So anything from you, Rog?
Oh, that's okay. Good story. The thing is, building on solid rock, it creates ruts. Get deeper and deeper.
And that's probably what we're seeing. That's what we see on there's a point to this. That's what we see in places like Greece. We actually see the same type of stone, and you see solid, you see rots, you see ruts in the stone, right? So if it's good enough for Greece, the heart of the Roman Empire, because it eventually was, Constantinople and all the rest of it, why, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, this obsession with Roman roads when there's so much about the Roman experience that is so much more deeper,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Rog. Anything from you, Andy?
No, I don't think so. I'm quite intrigued by these roads. I'd love to kind of dig through them and see if there's what's underneath them, but you can't do that, of course. So.
Well, you could do a cross section across them, but there's not much of a cross section to make a cross section across.
No.
And that's another thing. That's another thing with Roman roads, right? You don't find any coins with them usually, or any pottery or anything with them at all. There's hardly anything datable with them, right? And I was the one thing that I could tell you a really geekish thing. The one thing I would be fascinating with, right, would be to excavate a railway train station, where you got the platform and you got the cutting there, right, with all the gravel, right?
Yeah.
People are always chucking their money there, right? I'd love to do an excavation like that, find a fortune, but in the Roman period, it wasn't like that. Why would you just be discarding money like we do in this modern day and age? So there are different ways of looking at all of this and how it's developing. So
the odd body in a ditch, that's all, isn't it?
just the odd body in a ditch, yeah. Like there are odd bodies in ditches associated with roads. Yes, they do exist. Cirencester being one example. Right. Okay, Margaret.
Well, you kind of touched on something out that was just going through my mind. I was just thinking, in this day and age, the amount of litter on trackways and roadways, bags and bags and bags of litter, plastic, paper, fag ends, you name it. I guess most of the things were biodegradable. They would have thrown rubbish away probably the same as we did as they were travelling along. But the only things that would remain would be the metal things, I guess, and tin.
Lots of them would be corroded away and rusted, yeah. So, there would be, but you're not really going to find much of that anyway, because if you're thinking about a stretch of Roman road of 230 miles long, right, what's the chance of finding anything along a stretch of, say, a mile? It's just going to be so random. And how often were they used, and all these other questions,
Yeah.
But they would have chucked stuff away, bits of food, and I don't know. Anyway, it's all gone.
And there is one other thing, right? Why would you be going along these quagmires in the winter months, right? Because that's what lots of these roads would become. They become muddy quagmires. Surely you would think, right, I'm not going to use these because they're inaccessible. So you've got all of that as well.
Needs must.
So you're going to use a river. You're just going to wander across a field. You're going to wander across a hedge line, So, right. If there's nothing else from you, Margaret, let's find if there's anything from Will.
I'll just mention that Thomas Codrington's book 1903 was the first print, and it is available in electronic format on Hathi Trust. So you can look at all the maps of all of the streets with some descriptions of the whatever. So and it's from 1903 up until the later prints, 1918, 1919. They did about 5 or 6, whatever it was. So they're available.
Yeah, Codrington's work on roads is brilliant. So
Yeah.
that's where we get Marguerite in the 1940s, 1950s. Michelle has been out for the past 2 hours trying to find her keys, and they were probably where she put them. And I'm gonna paint that puce or something so she can find it. You know,
right? Yeah, paint.
That is true. That is true. She's gonna make me a drink now to celebrate. So yeah, Codrington's book is really good, and I'm just gonna we've got a lot of stuff to get through, so onwards and upwards. And on that note, we've got the Fraggle. Do you know Judith sent me a message, right? And she's got all these different names, apparently. Are you still there, Judith?
I am still here, and I have got a question.
But before we do that, her titles so far are Fraggle, Vampire, Nightmare, Troublemaker. And then she said it's also a wage slave.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah, and a mad woman I put in there as well.
Vampire, though.
Vampire, yeah.
Oh, it's because I had to ask him to let me in. It's all right, I'm not a vampire.
Yeah, because if you allow a vampire in your house like I did with Michelle, I haven't been able to get rid of her.
Yeah, well, they can't cross your threshold, can they, unless you invite them?
She was coming over to my threshold. I couldn't get out of the house.
Ooh, you need lots of garlic.
She likes garlic. You know, she feeds me garlic. Shocking.
Can we sometime look at Rough Castle on the Antonine Wall? They've got some interesting defensive pits.
Oh, yes, they have. Yes, I tell you what, right? As you guys have been asking about defenses and stuff next week, why don't we do Rough Castle next week? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay.
And the weird thing as well is this, right? With Rough Castle, you've got all these pits, right? And you're thinking, right, obviously all the Roman forts had these, they didn't, right? And it's just like thinking, well, what's going on with this what's going on with the Roman world now? If you go to Romans in South Wales, I want you to get started on this. This is your homework. This is your textbook. So Romans in South Wales. Let me give you a hint. Right, there is right, part 4. Go page 21. Right, I talk about military sites. I talk about what we refer to as practice military Roman works. Did you know there's several sites, particularly in Wales, one in Landred Node Common, one in Neath in West Wales, right, where the Romans practice built forts, right? So what we're saying, we find bits of curved wall, and they abandoned it. You got a bit of an entrance, and they abandoned it, right? A stretch. So the Romans were actually building things to practice, right? So what we call them on maps is practice works. You'll find this written on a number of maps, practice works. The Romans didn't actually complete forts in some places. They were practice works. They were practicing on how to build these things. And that only makes one conclusion in my mind. And Will knows this with Gettleigaya Common, right? On Gettleigaya Common, there's more than just 1 or 2 Roman forts. There's loads of little ones around because they were sending people out to practice to make these things. And that's a fact. The point is, if you're building all these little military forts everywhere, right, nobody's attacking you, right? If you're able to build these things and sort of train troops, nobody's attacking you. Unlike with Varus in the Teutoburg forest. They just did not have time to build anything defensive. That's why 2 legions were wiped out. That's reality. My God, it got really serious then. God.
Can I ask my question?
Oh, yeah. I was hoping you'd have forgotten to ask it. Right, okay. Go on, Judith.
Is Barry really an island, or is it a peninsula?
Which Barry? Because there's 2.
On the map.
This is really interesting, right?
I don't know. The one that you showed us on the map.
Yeah, No. Basically, what we did, we were doing research for the Barry book, right? For our new Barry book, and we were looking on the internet, and there was a photograph of this building on Barry Island, right? And we thought, well, where is it? You know, it doesn't fit with the maps and stuff. And we did a little bit more research, and it turned out that this was Barry Island in West Wales, right? Which was landlocked, right? That's the point. It was Barry Island in West Wales, which was landlocked. Now, the Barry Island in South Wales is a proper island, right? And it's like Thanet Island. That was actually an island once. In the Roman period, we've already done this with Ebbs Fleet.
Yeah,
that was an island. Thanet Island was an island. It's no longer an island, right? I'm not sure about the Isle of Dogs. If you go to the Isle of Dogs, but I'm not really sure about that. Andy, you'd probably correct me on that one. But Barry Island was actually an island once. And I've been in Barry sometimes, and people saying, "Where's Barry Island? It's over there, but it's not an island." But it was an island. It was an island. So yes, Barry was an island.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else got anything else before as I've embarrassed Michelle so much, I've got to give her her keys back. I'm keeping these keys with me. She doesn't use another 2 hours trying to find them. Right. Anyone want to say anything else before we finish?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Well, we know what we're doing next week. We're going to do more military stuff. We're doing Rough Castle, which is totally out of context with what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway because that answers a few questions, particularly one from Gina Bina. And I'm glad you've joined. And this has this been pretty clear tonight, Andy?
Yes, yeah. It just every now and again the sound just crackled, broke up a little bit, but it was only on a couple of words, so it really didn't affect it too much at all.
Good. Well, if nobody's got anything else to say, I really appreciate you joining me tonight. And we'll see you all next week. We will do a little bit of Rough Castle and a few other things next week. There's no other questions, and say good night. So thanks for your support. I'll see you next week. So good night, Roger. Good night, Margaret. Good night, Gina. Good night, Will. Good night, Andy.
Thanks, Will.
And good night, Judith, the Fraggle.
Yeah,
Oh,
bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Night all.
Bye.
Night all.
Night, guys. It's all for the good of the country. There we go. Sorted. Right, let's get this off, and let's look at the box here. Oh my God, yeah. This text box on the side seems to work tonight. It's very different. So so there we go. We've got a higher. We got a did you see my last text? Yes, I did. No. Text to Carl. My iPad froze. You're on mute. Right, so there we go. So look at that again. Just saving this, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to join my channel. So here we go. Here we go, folks. We've got on 1, we've got higher from Judith. 2, we got did you see my last text? 3, we got no from Margaret. Text to Carl after my iPad froze, and you're on mute. Where's my messages? There's nothing on you. No. Text to Carl after my iPad froze. You're on mute. Nothing there. Okay. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Nos da. Night, folks. Do. Okay. Do. There we go. That's it. I'm going to bed now. Okay, we're going to finish. Night, folks. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Night.